Alrighty, greetings and salutations. I hope everybody's doing well. So today I want to talk about the Nikon 24mm f2.8, specifically the pre-AI version, which was originally introduced in 1967, and is the subject of an essay in the 1001 Nights optical engineer blog that you can find online, which I will link to down below, in which Nikon's optical engineers discuss the history and development of some of their favorite lenses, including this one. So the 24-28 was significant because it apparently pioneered certain aspects of retrofocus optical design that I'll let you read the optical engineers' versions because I'm not all that technically adept. But apparently this lens was a bit of a breakthrough at the time. The people who designed it were very proud of it, and it incorporated lens, or it was the first lens to incorporate Nikon's CRC, or close range correction system, which utilized a floating element to assist the lens in focusing more closely, and that was kind of a big deal back in the day. So originally introduced in 1967 as the Nikkor-N, it picked up the C in 1972 and remained in production in this version until 1975 when it became the K series. And the K series, if you recall, is it's a collector terminology for the pre-AI Nikkor lenses with rubber focusing rings, which were produced from 1975 to 1977. In 1977, the AI version was introduced, which revised the optical formula. It still had 9 elements, but it went to it was different groups. I forget exactly how many groups, but whatever. It was a slightly revised optical formula with the introduction of the AI version. And the engineers all agree that the revised formula with the AI introduced in 1977 is superior, that it's better than this one. So does that mean that this should be avoided because it's inferior? And the answer is most assuredly no. There ain't nothing wrong with this lens. This is a fine lens. The people who developed it are very proud of it. And you can really get a good sense of that when you read the blog entry on the 1001 Nights, and about how proud they were and the accomplishments that of the team that came up with this thing back in the 1960s, when they were designing with pencil and paper and slide rules and no computers. It's if you're one of those collectors, if you're like me and you just enjoy using stuff like this, which was built in the pre-computer age by people who were just so passionate and so dedicated, and so proud of what they were doing, that they managed to create things like this with very simple tools. It was something. Well, I find it impressive, and perhaps you do it as well. But the AI version eventually became. I do not have a copy of the AI version. I do, however, have the autofocus version. So the AI formulation and the autofocus formulation are identical in terms of optical formula, and it is slightly better than what it replaced. But again, in nuances, it's better at the margins. But this is one heck of a darn good lens. And below I'll link down below to the optical engineers blog, as I mentioned. But I'll also link to my my Flickr album, where I've got about 40 plus images from, I think, 6 or 7 different rolls of film that I shot with this lens. And you tell me what's wrong with it. I mean, nothing. It's just a beautiful, beautiful lens which gets you great results. And if you've got a Nikkor system or a Nikon system, and you're looking for a reasonably priced 24mm lens, take a look at this. This is, these are very affordable. They're not hard to find, and they are fine lenses. I would recommend looking for the multi-coated version with the C right there. If you're not familiar with what the writing around the lens means, I've done a separate video on that. Other than that, I don't think there's any reason to avoid one of these at all. It's just it's a phenomenal lens. If you take a look at the images I've got on Flickr, you'll see a series of, I don't know, maybe half a dozen or so images that I took on Kodak Color Plus 200, and it was various these painted bomb shelters around the Gaza periphery area, which is near where I live. And it's just sort of, it's kind of its own genre down in southern Israel, bomb shelter art. But I mention it because those images were not shot with this exact lens, but rather I had a plain old Nikkor-N, that is a single-coated Nikkor-N, which I used for those images with no filter of any kind. And I think the color reproduction is fantastic. Well, I mean, as fantastic as, you know, Kodak Color Plus 200 can be. I mean, it has its own palette. It's a bit of it's an older emulsion with a bit of a retro palette. But I think that the results were fantastic, and I think that's a strong testament to the quality of this lens. In fact, a couple of those shots were should have induced a good bit of flare and did not, because I was shooting up against the sun. Or at least in the sun, and it wasn't in the frame, but it was just outside the frame. And there was no flaring of any kind. So good color reproduction and little to no flaring with the single-coated version speaks very highly of the optical formula in this lens, in my opinion. So take a look at that, and remember, just because it's something, and I talked about this when I did my review of the Konica 5218. Just because the thing that replaces something is superior doesn't mean the thing being replaced sucks. It most definitely does not, and that most certainly applies to this lens right here. There is no reason to avoid this. If you're shopping for a 24 millimeter and you find a nice one of these in good condition with good clean glass, don't hesitate. Just grab it. It's a phenomenal little lens. I also want to talk about a neat little discovery I made. So a few years ago, when I was shopping, in all likelihood at KEH, at the end, after I picked up all my big ticket items, which would be, cameras, lenses, whatever, I'll often check and see if they've got, like, body caps, lens caps, or polarizing filters, because I live in southern Israel, which is a very sunny place, and so I use polarizing filters almost all the time. And I found this, and so, well, I mean, I didn't know what it was. They didn't have a picture, it just said, use Nikon polarizing filter in very good condition or excellent condition, whatever it was, for $5 or $10. So I was just like, heck yeah, stick that in the bag and just pick up another one. So that's what I did, and this is what came. This is when I got the package. I found this thing, and it opens up, and it's kind of a funny looking filter. It's a very thick rim, but the front glass is much larger than the rear. It's sort of an odd attachment. So you sort of, I don't know how to describe this on the video, but if I hold this part steady, that would go onto the lens, I can turn, why don't I just show you. So it's a polarizer, so it's got to rotate, right? Well, this one rotates 180 degrees. I'll screw it on. There, that's on. Now I can rotate it like so. So you see where the 52 is there, at the bottom, and rotate it. So it'll rotate about 180 degrees. And if I've rotated this way, there's a hard stop. That's how I screw it on. And then I rotate it this way. There's a hard stop, and if I keep going, I'll unscrew it. Now, why would you build a polarizer like this? And the only thing I can figure is it's intended for wide-angle lenses, because the front glass is much wider and larger than regular 52 millimeter filter thread would suggest. So I shot the last roll on the Flickr album was shot with this lens this filter on this lens, and I got very good results. And I mean, I cannot see any vignetting that I would attribute to this in those images, and so I'm assuming that that's what this thing was made for. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what the name of the product would be, or if there is a name. If you know more about these than I do, which is not very much, please share your information. Please share your knowledge with a comment down below. Perhaps there's a name for this style of polarizer. I really don't know. It doesn't have a whole lot of information on it. All it simply says is Polar 52 millimeter, Nikon, Japan, and that's it. And on the package, on the back there, you probably can't see this, but on the back, you see it? Here we go. It says CP4. Now, I'm assuming that this is the packaging that this originally came in, but that may not be the case. I mean, I don't really have any basis for that assumption. I'm guessing that this is the original packaging, but I don't know that for a fact. So CP4 may or may not be the accurate part number for that particular type of polarizer. Although if it is, CP might suggest that it's a circular polarizer. I mean, I don't know. It looks a little older. I don't know. Circular polarizers only became necessary, I think, around the 1990s when the newer metering and autofocus systems required it. The older polarizing filters are linear, and I just assumed that this was an older linear style. But anyway, if you know something about this style polarizer, please drop a comment and share your knowledge with the group, with the audience, or what have you. All right, so that is what I've got for you today, the Nikkor-N or Nikkor-N.C 24 millimeter f2.8 pre-AI lens, outstanding lens, Nikon's most affordable 24 millimeter focal length lens. No reason not to have one, and especially if you are collecting if you're putting together a pre-AI collection to save some money, which I highly recommend, then this is an outstanding choice. All right. Thank you so much. If you found the video helpful or entertaining in any way, please do subscribe and like and check out those links below. Thank you now. Take care. Bye-bye.